I'm going to talk about LeBron's 10-point game streak here in a second, but I want to lay the groundwork first. Please bear with me. Angry Old Hoops here. The word of the day is consecutive. That was about 2 syllables too long for LeBron fans, so if I already lost you, well, so be it. I want to talk about playing consecutive games in combination with talking about the concept of load management. And when I say load management, I am going to go ahead and include injuries, real or fake, and as they now include today, personal issues, mental issues. Maybe somebody sent a particularly harsh tweet. Whatever it is that makes these guys need a night off or a week off or whatever the hell the case is. When I see and hear people talking about MJ's records and LeBron's longevity statistics, I can't help but think about consecutiveness and yes, that is a word, consecutiveness and load management. Now, with the exception of the LeBron fanboys, I want to apologize to people for insulting your intelligence by explaining to you what a word means, because this just means that things happened in sequential order. Why do I feel the need to point that out? Because LeBron James is like a student whose teacher lets him throw out every test he does badly on. Or, a better example, not come to any test that he might score badly on. And this doesn't count against his grade at the end of the semester. Again, I may have lost some LeBron people because you've probably not gone to college, but when you're taking your exams, every now and then, your professor will let you throw out your worst test score. LeBron James, for especially the last 5 years, is just only taking the tests that he feels up to take. You know, that's not very fair, is it? And none of those zeros, none of those tests that he doesn't take count against his overall grade. He's not racking up zeros to take down his overall test score. Now imagine you're another student in that class and you have to take all 82 tests and you have to perform well on all of them in order to have a good grade at the end of the year, in order to have the same grade that this other student is being given who takes whichever tests he wants to take. Or I should say, only takes tests when he feels up for taking the tests. I know you're saying, man, this is sports. We're not talking about taking tests. Yes, of course, I get it. But we are talking about physical performance and the ability for a person to sit out whenever he wants to, for as long as he wants to, in an age where even playing in the game looks like you're fucking taking a break, and not having any of that count against him. When I see people fawning over this streak, and then they follow that up by asking a question, can this streak ever be beaten, and how long can this streak go on? Well, that depends on how long you are going to ignore all the criteria that were involved in him achieving this streak. Does it not bother anyone how many games he's missed? You know, the fact that he gets to sit out games, but that doesn't break a streak, really says a lot. You can sit out as long as you want to and come back when you're ready and then score 10 points. Well, shit, that's not that hard to do. Are you willing to ignore that when Michael Jordan's streak was broken, it's because he came out of the game in the third with 6 points? I mean, you think that he couldn't have forced in 4 more points? Where on the flip side, you have LeBron James with multiple cases where he stays in the game right until he gets 10 points and then comes out. You know, you got one guy who is doing it for the stats and another guy who's just a great player. Are you willing to ignore that this omits the playoffs? And why did they choose to omit the playoffs in this particular case? If we were talking about a streak of 20 points per game per night, that might be worth talking about, but talking about 10 points? I mean, it sounds like you're trying to give me an award. And in this day of load management, when you come back whenever you feel fresh. Even 20 points per game. Isn't that mind-blowing? And yet, LeBron doesn't hold any records for 20-point consecutive games. The players who do appear in that top 5 are Wilt Chamberlain, followed by Wilt Chamberlain, also with the second highest streak, Oscar Robertson, and then Michael Jordan at number 4. Michael Jordan had his 20-point consecutive streak, which ended up being 72 games that he did that, in the 1987-88 season, in which he played every single game of the season. When you think about that, it puts load management into a new perspective. Michael Jordan not taking any games off and still performing in this way. Let's look at LeBron James, and let's say it was one of those seasons where he only missed 10 games, quote unquote only, because that's a pretty good number of games to miss. And if you spread those out correctly, well, that's the difference maker. If you take those games off exactly when you need to take those games off, that is really the difference maker in a streak. But that doesn't bother me nearly as much as ignoring when he misses nearly 30 games in a season. But when he does play, he gets his 10 points. That doesn't bother people? I mean, I think it feels like you should be disqualified. Hey, I'm going to go on vacation. You keep that record meter running, and I'll come back whenever I feel like it. The rest of you keep playing. The rest of you guys keep working hard all season. I'll come back when I feel like I can get 10 plus points. It just now occurred to me that 2 of LeBron's questionable rings came in shortened seasons. Obviously 2020, but also 2012 was a 66-game season, and LeBron still missed 4 of those. If we look at someone who was an actual competitor rather than an entitled bitch, Michael Jordan, playing 82 games anytime he was physically capable or not retired, imagine having to perform well, not just well, but really well, without taking any of those breaks, without sitting out any of those tests. He didn't get to say, oh, please don't count this test score and this test score and this test score against my GPA. I'm old enough that I can appreciate what giving your legs a night or 2 off means in regard to coming back the next game and having a great night. Now, take that concept of an old shit like me playing pickup ball and apply it to LeBron James taking 2, 3, 4 nights, sometimes months off. I mean, the fact that I have to get all the way into the months is crazy. The fact that you get into weeks is crazy. The fact that you get into multiple days in a row is crazy, especially once you watch any of those videos I've uploaded where I record the TNT overtime games, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, do these guys ever play? Like, do they go up and down the court more than 3 times? 2 to 3 times before the whistle blows? Before we go to a 3-minute fucking commercial, a 5-minute commercial? Before a 15-minute halftime? And then more times than not, they get a night, 2 nights off. It's very rare anymore to have back-to-backs. On top of all of that rest, this guy gets to say, oh no, I have an ankle injury when we're going to play the Bucks or whatever the case may be. I have a abdominal sprain, a fucking groin pull, a yeast infection. You want to talk about the word consecutive? Look at consecutive 82 game seasons from a guy who was winning Defensive Player of the Year and leading the league in scoring, whereas LeBron hasn't had consecutive 82 game seasons because he's only had one 82 game season ever in a longer period of time in which to possibly achieve multiple 82 game seasons. But now the word consecutive gets really significant, and the ugliness of ESPN and the LeBron James era of sports manipulation really shows its ugly face. And I have to give Uncut Hoops credit for refreshing my memory on this. But real quick, I got to ask a question. Who honestly cares about 10-point game streaks? I'm trying to picture guys in a bar or on the basketball court actually arguing about 10-point game statistics. Like, when's the last time anyone talked about that until there came a time to give LeBron James some praise for something? Does anyone remember talking about the previous leaders in 10-point games prior to this? But the really, really, really messed up thing about it is that it's not true. It's not even fucking true. Again, the word consecutive. We're talking about things happening in sequential order. So why would you not include the playoffs? It's part of that sequential order. The season continues into the playoffs. And when it comes to LeBron James, you suddenly have decided, fuck the playoffs. We'll just start counting again next year. Now, look, if the screenshot that ESPN was showing bothered to at least clarify that you're omitting the playoffs and talking about the regular season, then I guess you could have some really pussy-ass argument for even bringing the whole thing up. But they didn't have the decency to even do that. Michael Jordan is actually the record holder here. Unless, of course, you conveniently remove playoffs, which you kind of have to do pretty often if you want to give LeBron James praise, don't you? Now, am I the one who's being nitpicky? Or is ESPN? Like I already said, why not at least put the actual stats on the screen if you're not trying to mislead people? But this gets a little bit thicker when you realize that there's a very, very good reason to omit LeBron James's playoffs, because if you had, it would have knocked him out, because he doesn't have consecutive 10-plus point games. He has absolutely shit the bed multiple times in the playoffs. So, hey, let's just remove those tests from your grade. Doesn't that work out great for LeBron James? Now a fucking D student can still have an A. The real kicker is that Michael Jordan was doing this with a tradition of winning. LeBron, you've got a mixed bag of, it's all about me, the team's suffering, but hey, I've got my stats, versus everything past Michael's first years is a history of winning while he's performing greatly with what I would say is a moderate cast. Everybody wants to blow his cast into obscene proportions in order to take him down and lift LeBron up. I'm going to do something right now that LeBron James is seemingly incapable of and have a humble moment. I'm going to let people know that while I am a valuable member of the 5-person squad, I am not the MJ, the Kobe, etc. I am not the guy who takes over the game in order to win it. But I am the guy who shines when his teammates are awesome. I'm the Dennis Rodman. When everyone else is drawing the defensive attention, I can shine a little bit. I can end the day with a nice little stat line. Why? You can get a lot of points cleaning up the boards. You can get a lot of points on hustle plays. You can get a lot of points on pick and rolls when, during the pick and roll, people are going to tend to stick to the star guy while you roll to the hoop. And my God, mercy on my soul for making myself sound anywhere similar to LeBron shit James. But LeBron's last 5 years have been much more about people carrying the load while he gets the easy points. And those are the years. That's what's so disgusting. It's in those years that he's finally breaking those records. These are shit statistics that are getting him over the finish line. That's disgusting. The example I used of myself is applicable here as well, because if I take nights off and then go back out to the pickup courts and keep playing on a team where the house is stacked in my favor, guess what? I'm going to keep getting numbers, no matter how old I am. I can keep doing that for many years, as long as if I don't feel like playing one night, I can take a night off. Shit. Or I can act like LeBron James and take 3, 4, 5, 7, 14 nights off and come back. Shit, if I really was acting like LeBron James, I would just complain until I got the teammates that I wanted so that things were really easy for me. And just keep playing until I've gotten a bunch of meaningless numbers. Maybe I'll hang my own in-season tournament banners in my office. And again, in my 20s, I probably wouldn't have thought about this the way I'm thinking about it now, because you're kind of indestructible. I could have played all day, every day. Nah, not so much anymore. I can understand why 2 days later you might come back and look quite a bit better. And that just makes me disrespect LeBron James even more. Because if you want to grade this fairly and say, hey, you know, LeBron's doing just fine for someone who is coddled and rests and is carried, good for him for still trying. But no. We have to hear never-ending dick slobbering by people like Reggie Miller, etc., etc. If there wasn't so much dick slobbering, people like me wouldn't be throwing up in their living rooms trying to watch basketball and then come and give a fucking rant on YouTube. I don't know why this academic analogy is so interesting to me, but you know, it's like LeBron getting to spend a week preparing for a test when everyone else is taking pop quizzes constantly, like every day. Walk into the classroom. Oh, here's the test. And LeBron comes back whenever the fuck he wants. Hey, everyone, look at me. I managed to get a fucking B studying for a week for a test that you all had to cram for overnight. Bonus time. I was wondering why Michael Jordan's 20-point game streak ended. I looked it up because he got 18 points one game, came back and got 35 the next game. Guess who was fifth on that list of most consecutive 20-point games? It was Kevin Durant with 72 games. He also lost his streak by scoring an 18-point game and came back from that by having a 30-point game. All right, this is a pretty long video. I think I better cut it here.